Imagine this. It's the late 1940s. World War II has ended, but the world is far from peaceful. A new kind of conflict is brewing, not one of armies clashing on battlefields, but of nations racing to dominate the skies and eventually space. The United States, once a distant observer of Europe's technological experiments, finds itself in the driver's seat of innovation. At the heart of this transformation lies one groundbreaking invention: America's first guided missile. This wasn't just a weapon, it was a symbol of something much bigger. It was a declaration to the world that the U.S. wasn't just catching up, it was about to lead. But how did this come to be? How did a nation that had barely dipped its toes into the world of rocketry during World War II suddenly find itself building machines that could strike with pinpoint accuracy from hundreds of miles away? The story begins not in America, but in Germany. As World War II came to a close, the U.S. military launched a covert operation, Operation Paperclip, to bring some of the brightest scientific minds of the defeated Nazi regime to America. Among them was a name that would become legendary: Wernher von Braun. Von Braun wasn't just any scientist. He was the mastermind behind the German V-2 rocket, the world's first long-range guided ballistic missile. For the Allies, capturing von Braun and his team wasn't just about winning a scientific race, it was about securing the future. Without their expertise, America's missile program might have been a decade behind. But this was where the real work began. Von Braun and his team didn't just bring knowledge, they brought challenges. Building a guided missile was no small feat. It wasn't just about strapping explosives to a rocket and hoping it would hit the target. It required precision engineering, advanced materials, and a level of understanding about aerodynamics and propulsion that the U.S. was just beginning to grasp. In the sweltering deserts of New Mexico, at a place called White Sands Proving Ground, the first American tests began. These weren't flashy launches meant for public spectacle. They were raw, experimental, and often disastrous. Rockets exploded on the pad, some veered wildly off course, others failed to launch entirely. Yet each failure brought valuable lessons. What's fascinating is the sheer determination of the scientists and engineers involved. They weren't just building a missile, they were building history. These were people working late into the night, sketching designs on napkins, and arguing over equations that might change the world. And here's where it gets even more interesting. This wasn't just about war. Sure, the military wanted a weapon to keep America safe in a dangerous world, but the scientists saw something bigger, a future where this technology might one day take humans to the stars. As the camera pans over grainy black and white footage of early test launches, you can almost feel the tension in the air. Every countdown, every ignition, every plume of smoke marked a step closer to a new era. This is the untold story of America's first guided missile. It's a tale of ambition, innovation, and a relentless pursuit of progress. But it's also a story of people, visionaries who dared to dream bigger, work harder, and push boundaries in ways the world had never seen before. The early 20th century was a time of monumental global shifts, none more defining than the onset of World War II. As nations clashed on a scale never seen before, warfare transformed into a battleground of innovation. Tanks replaced horses, bombers ruled the skies, and submarines stalked the oceans. Amid this whirlwind of technological advancement, a new problem arose. How could weapons hit their targets with greater accuracy, especially when the enemy was miles away or moving at high speeds? The answer lay in an idea that would change the nature of warfare forever: guided missiles. In the heat of World War II, both the Axis and Allied powers recognized the critical importance of precision weaponry. The stakes were unimaginably high. A single miscalculated strike could mean the difference between victory and devastating loss. It wasn't just about brute force anymore. It was about control, strategy, and accuracy. For the United States, entering the war after the attack on Pearl Harbor brought urgency to their innovation. The need for a weapon that could deliver destruction from a distance without risking the lives of pilots became not just a priority, but an obsession. The journey into uncharted territory is never without its trials. For the brilliant minds tasked with developing America's first guided missile, every day presented a new set of challenges. This was a world where the rules were yet to be written, where the line between success and failure was razor thin, and where the stakes were as high as the soaring skies they hoped to conquer. Imagine standing in a lab, surrounded by equipment that feels as foreign as the idea itself, creating a weapon that could think, move, and adjust mid-flight. These weren't just engineers and scientists, they were pioneers, explorers of an entirely new frontier in warfare. Yet the question loomed, could they turn what seemed like science fiction into science fact? One of the first hurdles they faced was technology itself, or rather, the lack of it. In the 1940s, computers were still in their infancy, and the precision required for guiding a missile was nothing short of a Herculean task. The team needed to design systems that could calculate complex trajectories, account for wind resistance, and adjust in real time, all without the luxury of modern computing power. These challenges often pushed the limits of what the era's machinery could handle. And then there was the issue of propulsion. How could they design a missile engine that was not only powerful, but also efficient and stable enough to ensure the missile would reach its intended target? Early tests were rife with failure. Missiles would explode upon launch, veer off course, or fail to ignite altogether. These setbacks weren't just frustrating. They were costly, both in terms of time and resources. Yet each failure served as a lesson, pushing the team closer to success. Guidance systems presented another monumental challenge. The idea of a smart weapon, one that could adjust its path mid-flight, was revolutionary and incredibly complex. Engineers experimented with rudimentary gyroscopes, radio signals, and even early forms of radar. Each method came with its own set of complications, from interference to mechanical unreliability. Every test seemed to present a new problem, a new reason to question whether their vision could ever become reality. Even the human element posed its own challenges. Collaboration on this scale was unprecedented. Scientists, military officials, and industry leaders had to work together, often with differing priorities and perspectives. The pressure to deliver results, fueled by the looming shadow of World War II, sometimes led to friction and disagreements. Yet despite these tensions, their shared sense of purpose kept the project moving forward. The unknown also brought fear. What if their creation failed not just in testing, but in the field? What if it succeeded too well and unleashed unintended consequences? These weren't just theoretical concerns. The ethical implications of guided missile technology were deeply troubling, even to those who believed in its necessity. But perhaps the greatest challenge of all was the need to believe. In the face of doubt, in the absence of precedent, and despite the failures that seemed to outnumber the successes. They were chasing a vision that many deemed impossible, and the weight of that responsibility was immense. The development of America's first guided missile wasn't just a technological endeavor. It was a test of human resilience, ingenuity, and courage. The unknown was vast, the challenges daunting, but these pioneers pressed on, knowing that their work could change the course of history. Little did they know, they were shaping not only the future of warfare, but also the future of exploration, innovation, and what it meant to defy the limits of possibility. As World War II drew to a close, the victors found themselves facing not just the spoils of war, but a treasure trove of intellectual wealth hidden within the minds of their adversaries. Among these were some of the brightest scientific minds of Nazi Germany, whose expertise had been critical to the development of groundbreaking technologies. What the Allied forces chose to do next would forever alter the landscape of science, engineering, and warfare. Enter Operation Paperclip, a covert program designed to bring German scientists to the United States, turning former foes into reluctant allies. The stakes couldn't have been higher. The Cold War was beginning to simmer, and the U.S. knew it needed to stay ahead of the Soviet Union in the arms race. One of the most critical areas of competition? Guided missile technology. The Germans, having developed the infamous V-2 rocket, were already leagues ahead in the field. The V-2 had shown the world what was possible, a weapon that could strike from hundreds of miles away with unprecedented speed and accuracy. The Americans realized they couldn't afford to start from scratch. Operation Paperclip was controversial from the start. How could the U.S. reconcile its moral stance against the horrors of the Nazi regime with its willingness to employ some of its architects? For many, it was a bitter pill to swallow. But for military officials and scientists, the choice was clear. The potential rewards far outweighed the ethical dilemmas. One of the most notable figures brought to the U.S. through this program was Wernher von Braun, a name now synonymous with space exploration and rocketry. Before his work for NASA, von Braun had been instrumental in developing the V-2 rocket for Germany. His expertise, along with that of other German engineers, became the backbone of America's early missile programs. But integrating these foreign experts into the American military-industrial complex was no easy feat. Language barriers, cultural differences, and lingering suspicions made collaboration difficult. Many of these scientists had to navigate the delicate balance of proving their loyalty to their new homeland while still grappling with their pasts. Despite these challenges, the results were undeniable. German expertise accelerated the development of America's first guided missile systems, providing insights that might have taken years, if not decades, to achieve independently. These scientists brought not only technical knowledge but also a culture of rigorous experimentation and innovation that influenced American research practices. Yet the legacy of Operation Paperclip is far from straightforward. While it undoubtedly advanced U.S. military and scientific capabilities, it also raised uncomfortable questions about the cost of progress. Did the ends justify the means? Could technological breakthroughs truly be separated from the moral compromises that enabled them? For the men and women who worked alongside these foreign experts, there was little time for reflection. The clock was ticking, and the Soviet Union wasn't standing still. Every test, every calculation, every prototype was a step in the race to secure America's dominance in a rapidly changing world. The paperclip effect was more than just a moment in history, it was a turning point. It highlighted the lengths nations would go to secure an edge, the complexity of morality in times of conflict, and the undeniable power of knowledge, no matter its origins. What began as a secret operation became the foundation of an era, proving that even in the darkest chapters of history, sparks of brilliance could illuminate the path forward. The story of America's first guided missile program wasn't just about creating a new weapon. It was about building the foundation for a future defined by technological supremacy and strategic innovation. The journey to this point was far from straightforward. It was a complex tapestry woven with ambition, ingenuity, and lessons learned from both triumphs and failures. Every challenge faced, every problem solved, and every breakthrough achieved laid the groundwork for a future that was, at the time, barely imaginable. In the immediate aftermath of World War II, the world found itself in a precarious state. The United States, emerging as a global superpower, understood that the future of warfare would hinge on technology, particularly in the field of rocketry. The lessons learned from Germany's V-2 rocket program underscored the potential of guided missiles, not just as weapons, but as strategic game changers. If the U.S. was to maintain its position, it needed to master this emerging technology, and fast. The Hermes project, launched under the Army's direction and supported by General Electric and other key players, was a direct response to this need. Its goal was to develop short and medium-range guided missiles that could provide a technological edge in future conflicts. However, this was no small feat. Engineers and scientists were venturing into uncharted territory, attempting to create systems that had never been built before. One of the most significant challenges was developing reliable guidance systems. Unlike traditional artillery, which relied on predetermined trajectories, guided missiles required the ability to adjust their paths in real time. This meant creating sophisticated onboard controls capable of responding to environmental factors like wind resistance and gravitational forces. For a nation just beginning to explore the science of aerodynamics, this was a monumental task. Testing and failure became the lifeblood of the Hermes program. Early prototypes were far from perfect. Some exploded on the launch pad, others veered wildly off course, and many simply failed to perform as expected. Yet each failure was a stepping stone. Engineers meticulously analyzed the data, identified weak points, and refined their designs. The process was painstaking, but it was also necessary. Progress, after all, rarely comes without setbacks. Another critical component of the program was collaboration. The expertise of scientists brought to America through Operation Paperclip played a vital role. blending European experience with American ambition. This collaboration didn't just speed up the development process, it introduced new ways of thinking about missile design and engineering that would influence generations to come. By the time the Hermes A-1 took its first flight, the foundation had been firmly laid. The project had advanced American knowledge of propulsion, guidance, and aerodynamics. More importantly, it had fostered a culture of innovation and persistence that would define the country's approach to technological challenges in the decades to follow. Looking back, it's clear that the Hermes program was about much more than a single missile or even a single mission. It was about setting the stage for a future in which guided missiles would evolve into intercontinental ballistic systems, space exploration would become a reality, and technology would shape the very fabric of modern life. The work done in those early days didn't just lay the foundation for America's defense systems, it laid the foundation for the future itself. The development of America's first guided missile was not merely a technological triumph, it was the catalyst for a transformation in modern warfare and defense strategies. What began as an ambitious response to the global military landscape soon evolved into a pivotal moment in history. From the lessons of failure to the brilliance of collaboration, each step taken in the creation of the Hermes missile program contributed to shaping the future of military technology. As the missile systems evolved, so too did the tactics and capabilities of the U.S. military, ensuring that America maintained its position as a dominant force on the global stage. The critical technologies birthed in these early programs were not confined to the military, but paved the way for advancements in space exploration, aviation, and countless other fields that have had a profound impact on everyday life. The foundation laid by the pioneers of the Hermes project and the other guided missile programs would become the cornerstone of America's missile defense system and would influence the design and strategy of weaponry for generations to come. What was once science fiction became an integral part of modern warfare, and it all began with those first crucial steps into the unknown. Today, when we look at the missiles, rockets, and satellites that define America's technological prowess, we are reminded of the bold thinkers and relentless innovators who took those early, uncertain steps. Their work, their trials, and their successes have shaped the future of global defense, technology, and even space exploration. And so, as we reflect on the incredible achievements that followed the creation of the first guided missile, we are left with one undeniable truth. America's technological journey began not in the comfort of certainty, but in the courage to push beyond the limits of what was known. The future, it seems, was always just one step ahead, waiting to be discovered. And it all started with the first guided missile.